And hello and welcome to another episode of Enter the Matrix. This time we will be discussing, as in the title, the Australian New Zealand Team Championship. And I would like us to be joined by Adam Camilleri, but he probably is still sleeping because it's 6 a.m. down under. And we are also missing Typhus because he just came out from the US and he's just like as fuck. So it's me and Nathan to take on this mantle. Hopefully, maybe Adam will join us soon. To start us off with, Nathan, how have you been? What is happening in the UK? What is the deal?
I've been great. We finally got that 6 days of sun that England gets a year.
Oh man, that must be great.
We got
So
it over
you're
our 3-day
basically
weekend.
all your vitamin D supplementation is now done, and now you must survive on it for the rest of the year, right?
Yes, even though I am ginger, I still stay in the shade most of the time because I don't want death. But no, things have been good. We just had a 3-day weekend, so everybody's out drinking, partying, doing all the normal stuff. I think it's been good. How have you been, buddy?
I am super good. I have been basically doing the overall preparation for for my captaincy role, let's call it that. So I'm basically organizing the team and the way we are supposed to practice and give information, give data, gather it, process it, stuff like that, so that we have a nice, easy process when the changes come and the current meta, how it develops, because there's like a billion games going on every single fucking day.
Yeah.
So I just needed to find a way to like communicate with all of the people to find the optimums and such. Other than that, I haven't actually played Warhammer in a long time.
Have you played since the new points?
I did. I played. Did I? Yeah, I did play the GK, the GK list on my local RTT, using 2 Redeemers and some Helverins, because that's an idea that has been floating around with like Eric Forsman's list, and Vic has like doubled with it. So I just thought, hey, I cannot really borrow Eldar for this RTT because I don't own any of those models. So I'm not about to fucking spend hours upon hours finding each and every single one of those. So let me just grab some.
You're a good, respectable human being who doesn't play Eldar.
Yes, although I would still do it if I could, to be honest, because that was so fucking busted and broken
they
and
are
fun.
Super busted.
It's like
way more than people say they are.
That is very true. Yeah, so I just grabbed some like 5 NDKs and 2 Redeemers and some Helverins and just fucking run it.
It's fun.
It is very fun. Unfortunately, the damage was done, and because I did pretty well at the last team tournament I went to, there were 2 elder players on my locality playing basically the same list I did.
Yeah.
And that's not a good matchup if you didn't know that.
No.
Not ideal. No, not really. Not suboptimal, good. You could say.
Yeah, as long as they don't completely shit the bed, the enemy raps, they give you a rough game.
Yep. I still managed to score a 7 points, which is fucking wild, by the way. Yeah, that's legitimately way more than I expected. So, the main topic of our show would be discussing what happened down under in the Australian land of the Southern Hemisphere, because the ANZTC Team Championship just happened. And to run us through that, let's begin with looking at some of the stats that have been provided to us by none other than Tim on our Discord. He has graciously allowed me to use his work to present some of that to you guys. So let me grab some of that. All right. So we have 10 teams in this amazing event. 10 teams of 8 nonetheless. It is, of course, still on the old, so to speak, points, because the event just happened this weekend, so they were not in play, in fact. However, we can because the points, let's be honest, didn't change a whole lot. There's, I think, still we can gather from that, and like in the sense of what's cooking and what will. I'm wondering what if we can also discuss how the points and the changes will impact what has happened here, and maybe also give our thoughts on where the general team meta, 8-man team meta, 5-man team meta is going in the next months. Yeah, basically that. All right, diving in. The faction spread for the event. We, of course, have shitloads of Marines spread between mostly Blood Angels and BT Ironstorm, which I think is extremely what we expect at this point, right?
Yes, yeah. With the one Space Wolf, I assume, which is what we call Wolf Jail, for those who don't know.
It is Wolfsay. I will actually talk
Yeah.
about it some more,
Yeah.
because I would like to shout this list out because it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Next up, Necrons, also brought by 8 teams. Just 8 teams, actually, I think, especially for an 8-man format. Not bringing Necrons in 8-man team lineup seems very deliberate, or like a choice, or a lack of player, in my personal opinion. A first spread between Hypercrypt and Kurt. Fine. As like, I think the debate on which is better is basically done at this point. It has been, at least for the last months, solved as they do different things, but they are both extremely valid. Guard, 7 teams brought Guard, also extremely reasonable. Sisters in the 7 category. A lot of GKs, so Australia also has jumped on the GK train. I'm not sure how many of those were the multi-PN DK lists. I assume most of them.
Yeah.
Next up, very good representation, I believe, from Custodes. Still, I mean, old Custodes, so a big difference I think is going to happen in that department in terms of bringing them into the team comp.
Yeah. The new codex is a bit, let's say, interesting.
That's a good line. A lot of Chaos Knights, and this is when it starts getting interesting for me, because I thought I would expect Chaos Knights to be a little bit of a fringe choice.
Normally, yes. I think they have a bit more of an affinity to it down there. You have people like Matt Morsoli, who's played it at last year's WTC. It is one of those, we've talked about CK in the past, it is a bit of one of those volatile armies. It's, rather than you get some armies like Death Guard, whatever, who are like 8 to 12, CK are like a 5 to 15. Into some matchups, they can snatch you the round by, if you just frontline and go first, into something like Guard, frontline go first, into something like, into some armies, it is just, can you deal with all of them in one turn? No, I roll over you. It can happen.
Matt was also there playing for Team Victoria, who came victorious from the event, and he's done pretty well with them.
Yeah.
Just 5 T-Sons. So just half of the teams brought T-Sons, and that's very interesting. I know for a fact Jeremy Martino from Team Australia, who was also playing on Team Victoria, brought a very interesting list. I think we'll look further into it in just a second, because just think of Terminators. 10 of them without the Terminator Saucer, and I'm gonna be honest, what the fuck is going on with Australian Terminators? Because there's like a thing. They just cannot help themselves. They will bring Terminators to every single list they can. Same with World Eaters coming right up. I think that's on the lower side, especially seeing how T-Sons have performed over the past, at now like 2-3 months. Extremely good in things we've seen, like Home Nations, Alpine Cup, Pyro Cup even.
Yeah.
So a lot of T-Sons like T-Suns are suspected, I believe that's fair to say, to be the upcoming boogeyman in the meta, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So to see just 5 of those, and we will go into the results further, it's bewildering. 5 Tau players playing the old Tau. I also think Tau is like the Australian ground is the place where the Tau thrives the most, even if it's not like forgotten throughout the rest of the world. But seeing like T-Suns and Tau be taken on the same level, but just half of the teams, is absolutely buck wild to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nids. 2 swarm lists, 1 Vanguard Onslaught list, and 1 Invasion list. Nids, even in Australia, 40% of the teams soul swap size.
It's pretty good.
I will never understand this, and I have talked about this in detail, like when me and Ines have discussed the changes in the newest points. I rate Nids so high that it's crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
I think they are absolutely amazing faction. In line,
they have a damage output issue, but the 2 variants of the kind of 2 leading variants of the swarm get around the damage issue by just tanking primaries and scoring primaries so well. In an 8, it's phenomenal. You've seen it. The Polish one's been doing fantastically well. Quite a few of them have been doing. I think a Belgian one did really well at Home Nations. It is a fantastic list when played properly, and there's just some armies that can't deal with it. It's a little less great in a 5-man teams. I was very much going to take it to Alpine, but you start getting into what the 5-man team meta is, and they start struggling a little bit. They can get boxed.
I can see that. I can see that with a lot of factions. Actually, I think by the time like we have developed the meta to a certain point, the cracks have started to show up, and like the top 5 or the most restricting armies. I think we have actually discussed this after Alpine, that things like Death Guard or even Sisters might not be so good in 5-man team comps, and I think Nids fall into the very similar category.
For sure, yeah.
For Death Guard players as well, only 4 Eldari.
Surprising.
Bewildering, to be honest. Same as T-Suns.
Yeah.
3
orcs. We should say this is WTC terrain.
It is
as well. So the Eldari on WTC terrain ended up being 4 players, which is what? There's 12 teams. A third of the teams is surprising.
It is very wild. That is true. I rate them super highly still, and I think not much is going to change after the new points, to be honest. 3 orcs on the new on the old codex. That's fair. That's probably just player choice, as in you have a player that's very good at orcs and you just bring him.
Yeah.
Only 2 world eaters. World eaters, as we know, are a bad faction, and only 1 player on this planet Earth can play them to any success.
Well, somebody got 91 points with them, so I assume they did pretty well.
Then a single Votan, single Admech, and a single CSM. So one-offs, as you have a person who plays the faction very well.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so in general, that's very different. That's very Australian, which is what I'm saying. CK being in the majority of teams, that's quite crazy. T-Suns being taken just half of the time. Like Eldar being taken less than Custodes or CK or even Tau. That's ridiculous to me.
But that always feeds into the points of when you get to something like the WTC, how everyone's meta is, even though we have so much spread of information now, everyone's meta is still different, which is what makes the event so much fun.
That is very true.
They'll rock up with armies that you maybe haven't practiced against enough.
100%.
You don't have that player in your country. Yeah.
All right. In terms of, and now, this data has some very interesting stats done on it, with win percentages and average scores from each of the factions. And here, now there's some messed up things in here. Because everything I know about Warhammer and Team Warhammer is going to shit when I look at those. Let's start with Marines being solid, which is what we expect. Sure. Necrons, absolutely amazing. 70s as average scores. To have a perspective, the maximum score of a faction or of any player was 120 because it was a 6-round event. So 70 crushes like the mid mark and just moves slightly beyond that.
Which over an average is quite good,
Mm-hmm. Then we've got Guard that struggled. And it's very clear to me that it struggled. I wish we had Adam because I know he played some of the Guard games, and I would love to hear his perspective, especially. I know he had a very rough game into some Vanguard Knits, which, by the way, I completely fucking understand.
Yeah, they're on you turn 1.
Yup, legitimately, you can just get fucking locked in your deployment zones, and boy, oh boy, do Bolgren die to like fucking Tyranid warriors or Gene Stealers or whatever that build is running, but probably some combination of, and they are not going to help you recover from being completely closed off in your deployment zone.
No. Interested to see what the
then
we interested to see what the guy. So,
Nathan, come again, please. You could repeat. It cut you off for a bit.
What the guard.
And we are losing
out a little bit.
Bye. Hey, there you go.
I'm still there.
I think you're good. There. Yes, all good.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what the guard results are without the 3 at the bottom, because that's probably dragging the average down quite a lot.
That is very true. Yeah, because we've got a 74, we've got a 60, we've got a 3.
Yeah.
Is that real? That's fucking crazy, actually. That cannot be real, right?
Again, which is probably dragging the percentage down of wins and dragging the average score down. The average score is probably in the 50 something.
Yeah, that checks out actually. And 56. So it's between 6 other players. It's like a 50 something, right?
So like mid 50s or something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Then we have got Sisters and GK. And Sisters, I was told by some very reasonable Sisters players, including this show's very own Typhus, are a pretty decent army. They are very good and solid in scoring draws and shit. And they don't lose badly. They legitimately cannot crush matchups. Oh my fucking god. What the hell has happened here? Because those Sisters, on average, took 76 points away from this tournament, including 113 out of 120. That is buck wild. That is insane.
Yeah, that is a. It would seem. Obviously, I'm just talking. I haven't seen his matchups.
We will actually. I know what we should do. We should actually jump for a little bit and talk about this.
One thing I would say about stats for teams is occasionally, I'm not saying this is the case, but occasionally you do get a thing where potentially a phenomenal player on a struggling team gets a very, very high score because they are playing against necessarily the lower teams. So say, for example, at something like Alpine, where we had 72 teams or something like that. There were a couple of people who were very, very high scorers, but their team didn't score particularly highly. So I'm not saying that is the case with this. I'm just saying sometimes you see very high scores. It becomes a little bit extra when you see very high scores on a team that is, say, podiuming or something.
That's fair. But this is Riz, and Riz is in Team Australia, and Riz has fucking won the event.
Yeah.
And everything just goes out to it.
Yeah.
So
forget everything I just said.
Exactly. Players' placings, please. So Riz has scored the second biggest score in this tournament, going 15, 20, 19, 20, 20, and 19 points, which is insane. Like, how do you even do that? So let's go into his list. And I would like to say that there's some amazing fucking secret tech, I don't know, shenanigans going on over here, and that there's no Catherine. There's Valgans.
I've been seeing more and more no Catherine lists. The last three sisters list I've played in competition haven't taken it. So I'm interested in necessarily why that's happening. But
yeah,
I also
overall, there's nothing like super amazingly fucking Buckworld special about this, right? It's Valgans. So it's the very Valgan variation without Catherine, with the Super Palantine, with Celestine, with Sisters, with 2 Rhinos, 30 Archers, of course, 2 Castigators, some Crusaders, the rest of the Valgans, some Repentia, but 10 Repentia actually. I rate this squad, to be honest. I've played against it a couple of times, and I think it's quite good.
Yeah, I've played it twice now.
Fucking novitiates, like the Paladin can join the novitiates, sure. There's no like special tech. There's no Exorcist either. Not a single one. So there's definitely choices. But nothing about this list screams that it's going to fucking suddenly score 20s all over the place.
It hasn't like leaned massively one way into a tech type of build or anything. It's a pretty standard type of sisters list, yeah.
There's the tech with the Zephyrim, probably Celestine joining the 10 Zephyrim, which also has been floating around for some time. I've seen it played by Kruker, one of our plays. I think Vic has doubled with it during
Nick Danavati's played it.
Sorry, Vic. I mean Vic.
Oh, Vic, yeah. But I think Nick played it as well.
Yeah. So also one of the ideas that definitely has been floating around as one of the options you have in the quite deep, to be honest, index, right?
Yeah, it is good, yeah.
But how this consistently scores 20s across the board, I would like to fucking know legitimately.
Sisters do score very, very well, but it's how you stop other armies from scoring sometimes is the difficulty.
Yeah, I think Morven Val is the part of this, definitely. I think bringing Valgans makes some of my opinion is at least that it makes the matchups more volatile, as in some of them they improve significantly and some of them they will just demolish, as in you cannot play suddenly. I think that can happen. I would, for example, fucking hate to, as this sister list, come up against the Haywire spam Eldari with no Exorcist, with 2 Castigators, and like the Valgans. I think that matchup gets significantly worse without some of the other pieces and with so many points sunk into the Valgan package. But I do think, and it's very clear to me, that this package has also worked in this in Riz's favor over here.
For sure.
So, good job. Next up, GK, also one of the top scorers of the entire event. And the top scoring player with 112 points, 65% win rate, 78. So basically the highest average score against the whole faction. And I actually can see that. Now, this doesn't surprise me nearly as much as the GK, as the sisters, sorry, because I think GK is a skill in essence, right?
Yes, yeah. You can get it into the right matchups, and it Obviously, I've only used it at one event at Alpine, but it did feel you got it into certain things, and it's a really tricky list to play around. It still has that stat check element of you play some armies, like I played Guard in the last game, and he's like overlapping fields of fire on your land raider. I'm like, cool story, bro. Pop smoke and AOC, and he's like, I shot my whole army and it did 4 wounds. I'm like, cool. Here's 2 tech marines, put the wounds all back on again. So it becomes one of those like, it's still very stat checky. Plays all the missions super well, bounces around. Yeah, it's really good. It's really fun as well.
Yep. So Lakia, I am very sorry. Lachlan. Cool.
Lachlan,
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Non-English speaker here. Don't shoot. Don't shoot. So very sorry for that. Also, yeah, just did amazingly well with them, bringing 112 points out of 120. Running through none other than like a team Australian captain Dean Simbeck and his World Eaters. Very nice package in like the 6 Dread Knights, all that you can bring. No Libis, just 2 Tech Marines, and a nice package of Drago with a Termi squad and 1 Strike squad. Actually, very liked it. I enjoyed that package a lot. I think it threatens the 6-inch charge, and I guess it's swingy. That is kind of true, but with the pressure that NDKs provide, it is, I think, a very reasonable replacement to the Redeemers, I would say. Because I've seen a lot of things like the Canis Rex have been floating around, like the Helverins have been floating around, stuff like this. I like this quite a lot.
It is nice.
I think it also like can open up a matchup. He can just swing it completely. Getting those stuck in with the 6-inch charge, and if it actually succeeds, it also makes your opponent way more susceptible to like he suddenly needs to screen way more because they are infantry and they can fucking surround all of your stuff. It's a nice toolkit to have, especially if you want to go for higher scores, I think.
Yeah.
So, also, amazing job. Bonk. The CK. The Custodes. Extremely average. Very nice score. But 51% win rate. And 62 points, which is 2 above the legitimately the midpoint.
Yeah. Which I think is what we actually kind of view Custodes as at the moment. They have...
I agree.
A couple of good matchups. They are a problem for quite a few armies, and they also have the ability to just hold on for decent scores in most games. They have, if you have any kind of tech for them, they can fall over, but they are also that little bit of they have the chance to push, and if you pop all your defensive buffs and you don't do enough, you can start getting rolled over. And they actually give you a little bit of something to play into, say, Canoptic or Wraith Spam, which is where they actually can get like the 11s and 12s, depending on the build of the list.
100%. Extremely solid, extremely average. That's how Custodes used to be. And that's all, folks. That faction is probably in dire needs of some changes. I think honestly, that's actually a good talking point, I think, for us to discuss. Do you think there's legitimately a Custodes build that is brewing somewhere, which is going to surprise everybody? Because obviously they are weaker.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a point to be made that Custodes didn't win their games because of, I don't know, detachment abilities or superior stratagems even. Of course they helped, and many matchups like the Fight First stratagem and stuff helped. But some of the games they just won off of, I don't know, Word and fucking Feel No Pains, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I've not had the chance to play against the new Custodes. There might be something in there, but it just feels like they are worse now, with their strats have been spread out rather than having like
Mhm.
all of your half decent strats into one tree. You've now got a couple of good strats throughout different detachments. Some of the I've seen, I think somebody's done okay recently at a UK event. I say like okay, I think it went 4-1 because he went more down the mech build with the 3 4-draw tanks and Canis. But that starts becoming less of a what is a custode list and what is that kind of list. I haven't seen a build that's coming, but come 6 months from now, there might be something, especially if they maybe get something in the summer balance update, maybe a points change, maybe a thing. Don't know if they're doing points in the summer. We'll see. See what they do. They might get something if they are nowhere near the top.
That is very fair.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got T-Sons. And I'm just trying to like slowly scrolling through the player rankings. I think the top scoring T-Sons is still Jeremy Martino.
So with 58.
Yeah. I believe so, yes. 40.
So not even half points, which is surprising.
Basically. Back wild to me, as I've said. Let's see the list. So, we are starting off with the basics, with the bread and butter, with what we know and what we understand is going on. We've got Ahriman without the disc because 10 points is expensive and sometimes you don't fit that in, which is completely fine. The Exalted to slow things down. The Infernals with their Arcane Vortex. Everything's fucking obvious. The Magnus and the Sorcerer with the
But it's only one Infernal and one Sorcerer compared to necessarily what we see over here, which is spam the living shit out of them. Which is 3 Infernal Masters, 2 Sorcerers, Magnus, 1 or 2 disc characters.
Correct.
Maybe Ahriman. Maybe. That seems to be
next up. Choice. We've got a 10-man brick of rubrics. I assume with Ahriman.
Probably.
That is my assumption, right? Yeah. That is something I was running back when at the WTC, during the WTC preparations, actually. And back then, I thought after extensive testing, it wasn't worth it to invest so heavily when you can split that up and have 2 5-mans. Back then, I believe I ran a 10-man with bolters, but that was a whole another reason because towering was a thing and like Wraith Knights were a thing, and you needed the whole full fucking shenanigan combo of rolling everything, no armor save, +1/2 wounds, and I tried to fucking shoot the Wraith Knight down. So completely different meta.
Yeah, different game.
Exactly. And then 2 5-mans. So the Ahriman is, as I suspect, is joining the 10-man. Then we have a Sorcerer and the Infernal Master joining the 5-mans.
Yeah.
Cool. Single Rhino. And then we have the Scarapical Terminators. All 10 of them. As 1 squad of Spawn, 1 squad of Cultists, and 1 squad of Enlightened. So like your trash buffet. Let's call it. It is weird.
You just lose so much for the Terminators. Not in only you lose a lot in the way of Cabal points, which unfortunately 1,000 Suns is a... How do I explain this? They have the worst and best army ability in the world. Put points into it. It's arguably the best army ability in the game, but you have to invest a lot of your army into actually taking the Cabal points, which semi-forces you down Magnus and 5 units of Rubric as characters, which is inherently extremely boring. For me personally, as a list design, it looks boring. To play, it's different. It's got a lot of tech pieces. It rewards very, very good play, which is kind of where 1,000 Suns are. The ceiling on them is massive. They are, for me personally, the best teams list in the game. Mm-hmm. You can do so much with them. When we looked at Alpine, any team that had Thousand Suns in, which I think was either 3 of the 5 or 4 of the 5 that we played against, our matrix was trash against them.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way we dealt with them was Ironstorm first put forward. They didn't necessarily have 2 good answers. They had to use Thousand Suns.
Yeah.
Ironstorm on a light board can play Thousand Suns. It's still dicey, but you can play it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we got out of it. So yeah, this is kind of I don't know how many Cabal points he starts with, but
16. Just for after good calculations, 16 Cabal points in total in the list. So something's in the Rhino. Probably the Exalted Sorcerer can start there, or maybe 1 squad of Infernal Master, and you are either losing at least 2. Yeah, you're at least losing 2 Cabal points in the Rhino.
Yeah.
So you're basically starting with 14 or 13, depending on what you are putting in the Rhino.
Yeah, so say, for example, say like the standard, let's call it the European style of Thousand Suns that, say, Manny or Liam runs, that has what, about 22, 21?
21, usually, which means you are starting with 19.
2 or 3, yeah.
Exactly, with 19 on the board.
Yeah.
That is correct. I have actually played the list or similar list. And the whole shtick there is to be able to perform double Doombolt and then a move.
And double move. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, sorry, the single move.
Yeah. So you are able, especially if you have the sorcerer with the Lord of Forbidden Lore in the transport, you can then disembark, move him, even advance him, catch a line of sight from both him and the aspiring sorcerer in the squad, double Doombolt something, and fuck off to the transport, for example.
He doesn't even have that enhancement, does he?
No, because I believe he just doesn't have enough Cabal points to make effective use of it.
Sure. That's fair.
Very different style. And go out on a limb, I'm gonna fucking just call out and say it doesn't necessarily work.
I'd be interested to see how they used it. If it was a put forward, okay, maybe I can explain.
But why would you use a faction that has kind of has a proven record of being an amazing hitter army as a put forward?
Yes, yeah, that is the question. Like the way we've seen it necessarily used, it's get it in, especially in 8, get it into the right matchups, and you are smashing people if you play it aggressively enough. Because the damage output potential is insane on this list.
It has infinite damage, is what we've said so many times. Just to have another look at the T-Suns meta, here's another list that I grabbed. I think it's the T-Suns that scored second from the top.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't triple checking that, but I believe that's that. Triple Exalted Sorcerers on disc, already fucking back wild. 2 Infernal Masters. Just a single sorcerer, but 2 Infernal Masters, 1 Vortex, 1 of Crystal. Sure. There's Ariman, no disc, sure. There's the Magnus. 10 in rubrics.
10 again.
5/5/5. Sun's Anger and Lighten. Now this is very much more in line of what I would expect. I mean, 3 Exalted is very excessive, but I can see it being targeted towards some lists that really don't want to be fucking slowed or all over the place.
Yes. Yeah.
Which can cause a lot of trouble if those go off.
Yeah.
So I'm not hating on
one rhino? One rhino or no rhinos?
No rhinos.
No rhinos. So it's 10 man just walking. Yeah.
Yep.
Fair enough. I get it.
I don't know, man.
This is closer.
This is much closer. That is correct.
But that seems to track with, say, for example, even at something like Pyra, there's 1 or 2 Thousand Suns that score very, very highly, and then the rest are around the 50% score mark. So it is tough to, how do I put this up? The way this army plays is if you make 1 or 2, and you know more than anyone, make one or two tiny mistakes and lose, like losing one 5-man Rubik squad with a character. I'm not saying it's going to lose you the game, but it can.
It can.
It literally.
It can.
You play one army that just gets on top of you one turn, and you lose 2 squads, and it can be over at that point because you're limited. Your resources are so limited and so precious, especially because it becomes Cabal points, which allows you to do all your damage and maneuverable abilities. That losing anything becomes, especially if you start losing things like the Forbidden Law guy, that becomes big.
So here we are, 2 Europeans. I mean, 1 European and 1 British. Let's not fucking jump over. Like
50-50. We're on the continent.
Calling out on Australian T-Sons players to get good. Because you guys are dropping the ball. And like I've been saying T-Sons are meh. Then I needed to go like, yeah, T-Sons are actually fucking amazing. And now, what's happening?
So I think what they're trying to do.
I have surrendered my point of T-Sons being only good with like 3 people on the planet Earth. And now I'm like being proven, but I just fucking dropped that point. So what's going on?
They're trying to make sure Thousand Suns don't get a nerf. So they're just like playing it under the radar until the WTC.
Smart. Here's will Team Australia bring 10 Terminators in the T-Sons in WTC? Because they have already done that once.
I think they could. They could, you know.
Oh, he did really good. Like the boys are fucking wild.
Very different team this year as well.
Correct. All right, moving on. We've got Tau. I really don't want to go in details into Tau lists. They did very fine and very mediocre.
Yeah, and there's 115 in there, which drags it down a little bit because everyone else got 60 plus.
Yeah,
mostly 70.
Actually, very decent results, right, across the board.
Yeah,
except for the one person not having the first tournament, I guess. Nids, perfectly good. Also, one like struggler, but overall, most of them above average.
Do you know which one was which?
I don't, but let's look through that.
Which one was the 71? Which one was the 21?
Let us find the best Nid list in the tournament.
There's one there at 9.
Bonk.
So the top scoring one was
an unending swarm list.
Okay. Yeah.
Bonk. We've got Death Reaper. We've got Winged Hive Tyrant. Holy. Holy. Just fucking, you open it's peak Australian meta, bro. You open the list and you're like, yeah, the unending sword is pretty fucking good. And then you open this, it's fucking bonk. 210 points paid for the Winged Hive Tyrant. Fuck you. Just 20 gargoyles.
Yeah,
8 unending swarms.
No 10s.
We've got.
So it's the much more Hordio version.
Yes, it has 60 Termagants, it has 40 Hormagants, it has 40 Gargoyles, it has fucking Winged Hive Tyrant. 2 Exos, Neurogants, even.
And the Vanitas, Sure.
If that was, I could see this being just fucking Eric Latherus list. It screams Eric Latherus, by the way. It's bizarre, absolutely fucking weird. It's nonsense. Why not bring more gargoyles? Why do you bother with Termagants? What the fuck is going on?
No, I think Eric's lists. I'm not saying that this isn't. This is pretty standard. Eric's will be weirder, more imaginative, and will do something that you don't know is coming, and will beat you with it.
So, all right, Nathan. You're a Tyranid player. What the fuck does Winged Hive Tyrant? What does it even do? Because I have no idea, no clue.
It's a little better in Vanguard because it has the Vanguard keyword. So you can do some strats with it. In this list, it's not great because it's way too expensive.
Look, my memory still tells me that when I see a winged hive tyrant, it's the beat stick that jumps in, fucking
Yes.
zeros a squad, and just fucks off in the same phase, probably. But
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case anymore, right?
So the only thing I'm just checking it now, which is the. So obviously, it lets you do a battle tactic once. So that's one battle tactic that sucks ass. Then the other one that also sucks ass. Okay, so I guess one thing it does let you do every turn is because you are using basically your 2 CP all the time
Yes.
for bringing something
Recycling.
back,
Mhm.
recycling. It does let you do the 6-inch auto advance every turn. So one of those gargoyle units is going to go 19 to 24. Sorry, no, we'll go up to 24. We'll go the actual 24 inches every turn, which is a thing. Still there. Where's my PC?
Oh, it subtracts one attack from the characteristics at the beginning of the fight phase.
Yeah.
So it basically can sit in the. I think I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I think it's designed to sit in the middle of the list. The list seems to be designed solely for going against like melee skills, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the guy, I assume, doesn't have flown up or anything and would just die instantly from any reasonable shooting, like Iron Storm. So he sits in the middle of all of the guns, and if something charges the front lines, he can just fucking demolish the attack profile of it, right? Because
Yeah.
it subtracts one.
With the idea that you probably then don't have the attacks to kill a 20-man unit.
Exactly.
Example, or whatever. But that and the strat bonus, it's kind of nice. It's a nice little tech piece. But tech pieces usually aren't 210 points. And Fly is not what it used to be. He's not that tough because he's only toughness 9, not toughness 10 like the walking one. So it's kind of like it's nice. He's okay in combat. The strength 9, it's twin linked, but 9 minus 2 flat 3 kind of lets him down a little bit
Interesting.
at times. I guess he gets the extra.
He's very expensive though.
He's very expensive. He's too expensive.
Yeah, for the package.
Yeah.
Buckwild.
He's not awful though. He isn't awful. He's just too expensive.
Well, clearly.
Yeah.
Back over here. Death Guard doing Death Guard things, but losing like bitches. What the fuck is going on?
A shitload of 9-pointers.
Like,
yeah, probably.
I mean, it's a 167. Then we've got quite below average scores.
Yeah.
41, which is, except from the Orcs, which has only 3 players and 1 CSM player, the worst average score of the entire event.
Yeah, if we're talking about like 4+ players on a faction, like obviously you get the case where Admech's average score is 83 and they got a 75% win rate, but that's because,
look at this list, by the way,
because Admech are actually very, very good. They're just
Amen.
They're not even a stat check; they're just a wallet check half the time. Yeah.
Eldari. Team Victoria has not brought Eldari, for example, and not many teams have brought them. I will definitely look at the top list. Not a good win rate. 3 of their 4 players have gone above average, but definitely not like substantially superhitter territory, scoring an amazing amount of points. So I'm very curious to see where the Australian meta is like going, in which direction of the list. Is it the MSU stuff? Is it maybe Nari? So let's do this together again, and let's find us some of the beautiful, beautiful Eldari. Oh my. Why am I scrolling so far down?
33.
Yeah. With a score of 7, 11, 13, 20, 10, and 6. Not very good, actually. considering all the things. So this is not Inari because Ivrain is here, but she's not the warlord.
Yeah.
So we've
But
got the
apparently-
Wayleaper, the Fugan, the Ivrain. By the way, here's something that's been bothering me. Fugan or Fuegan?
I've heard
It's
it.
an ongoing debate. I've heard so many things and so many people, and I'm Polish, by the way.
Yeah.
And we do all the things we do differently, by the way. But I want to hear a professional opinion from the British person.
well, yeah. I pronounce it Fjörgen, but
It's Fugan, right?
I think, but if anybody pronounced it, it's a made up name. You can call it whatever you want.
That's not the point.
And British. Let's not call on the British to master languages. I'm absolutely bastardized. We can't even say water correctly half the time.
Amen.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got Ivrain, we've got Fugan, we've got the Warlord Wayleaper with the Phoenix Gem, very standard.
Yeah.
No avatar. The Stone Guardians have seen definitely some play with like I
They're
think
okay.
Liam has been running
I think
them.
they're just expensive.
That is true. They are still fine, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They went down even more. I think now they might become even a staple. I think they are very good.
Yeah, I get it.
A Wave Serpent, 3 Dark Reapers,
Which
1
is
Rangers.
now going to be standard because they went down in points.
They did? They don't think they did.
I think they went down 5,
I don't think they did.
but they're not. I'm seeing a lot of triple Dark Reapers now.
That is true, but I have been seeing them for a while now.
Sure.
And they are very good for things like Mirror and Sisters, but I don't think they went down in points.
Fair enough.
We've got 2 Spectres, 2 Skyweavers, 3 Hawks, the big troop. The big troop to go with Ivrain, and 3 Spiders. So it's very MSU, extreme MSU even.
Yeah, which is the way you go with Eldar now.
Yep. But it's not the Inari MSU, and it doesn't have decannons. But it is very similar to things that have been floating in Europe, played by like Hugo and some other people I've seen. Myson has brought something very similar to the last team event also.
Yeah.
It's extreme MSU Eldar, which is just very good, I think.
Which is where they're going to be now, even after the points changes, because if anything, Eldar might have even possibly got a little bit better. Striking Corpians and just for
Banshees.
like unit, Banshees and Striking Corpians are fantastic now because they're just dirt cheap with 3+ saves. Well, Banshees are 4-ups, but just Banshees, just what movement 8, you can fate dice if you want to. They're advance, and then they just block, and you go. It's a 65-point unit that doesn't need to do anything else other than that, and it's just they just get in the way, and it's super annoying. And yeah, Eldar are a difficult one to fix, I imagine, without just like putting the points up on everything. Which just
there's like one unit for me that makes Eldar the most ridiculous shit I have played ever. And I've played just one event with them. And the ability for Warp Spiders to move 24 fucking inches with no downsides is the most buck-wild thing there is in Warhammer right now.
Yeah. Plus say you look at Manny's list from Alpine, he had 2 or 3 spider units. I think he might have had 3, and then 6 jump units.
Yeah,
and it's just
like
trying to engage with this army becomes a nightmare.
For
me, it's paper thin. But
yeah, of course. I mean, all right. Actually, they are not paper thin.
Not as paper thin as people think they are.
Exactly. Because when I played this against like variations of this, of course. I played this against Guard, Skarsgård nonetheless. And the realization that the Manticores kill my Plague Marines the same or sometimes worse than they do Eldar was one of the realization I definitely had. It was one of the moments in my brain, and that was wild.
Yeah, it becomes a case of 5-man units with 6 wounds and 3+ armor save when you start getting cover, and you can
Yep, and then you've got
minus 1 to
invents,
hit.
and you
Yeah.
make some of the invents, even if you're supposed to make a third of them, that suddenly means the Exar fucking survives, or what? Like a guy and an Exar survives, or two
Yes.
guys survive because Exar took one extra wound for the squad, stuff like this. And it happens constantly. You are constantly left with those small, very small units that still can like do actions, move block you a little bit, do some fucking shenanigans, or maybe it's like a warp spider exarch with a guy, and it's still 3d6 shots with a dev wounds that can actually do some damage.
Yeah, you they are very difficult with a defensive profile, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it's very hard to find units that perfectly kill them.
Exactly.
Units either massively overkill them or underkill them. So, like you say, you either have like an Exarch and a dude, or like just one dude, which then
The
goes.
thing
Cool,
is,
I got
you
my
are
40 points.
if something is made out of paper, you always like think termagants, right? Or something like that.
Sure.
They die to a swift breeze. These units do not die to a swift breeze because they are always in cover. They've got ridiculously high movement values with small bases. So they are extremely easy to position onto any terrain piece wholly.
Mhm.
And still get line of sight onto whatever you want. Things like Shadow Specters got stealth, which is an even more of a bitch. With a 3-up save, 5-up invent.
Yeah.
And suddenly you realize they don't die to chaff shooting. You need proper things to kill those.
Yeah, like a blow drone won't kill a whole unit unless you get
Exactly.
like max shots. Like loads of little, like what's it? Here's a good example. Like Hive Guard in an invasion fleet, they get 24 shots with sustained. They even Overwatch on 4+s. It's 24 shots, 4+s, 6s explode. You kill like 3, 2 maybe. It becomes like a case of I've got a dedicated anti-infantry unit that doesn't even kill a 5-man Eldar unit.
It's one of the things I realized just by playing this the Elder list, that it is all supposed to die super easily, and then you realize it's a lot of 3-up save, same as Sisters.
Yes, the same as Sisters.
Like people constantly say, "Oh, Sisters just are fucking cheap and they die to a swift breeze." That's never the case. It's always a 3-up armor that usually has cover and stuff.
So with the potential to, I've got one dude left. Here's a 5 on my
exactly.
Dice. Here's my unit, not dead, who goes and gets a card now. You're like, shit.
Overall, I very much like this list.
Yeah,
I think it's super good. I am very surprised they didn't do better. I think, in general, Eldari are well positioned to be one of the Pokemons as well, alongside things like Thousand Suns. I rate them very highly.
Again, they still have a skill cap. You've got to play Eldar correctly, because we've all played Eldar players who think they're not as paper thin as they are sometimes, and push on you, and then you end up picking up 7 units, and actually then they start losing the game because they just
okay. I mean, sure,
it does happen.
I also think, my newest opinion after playing this army is that Eldar are nowhere near as difficult as people are like pushing them to be.
Sure.
And making it out to be. Because holy fuck, if I mispositioned my Rhino by 1 inch in Death Guard, I was fucked. And with things like moving 24 inches warp spiders, and you're fucking plomping down 20 units everywhere, and sometimes you're like, I mean, they can be on, I don't know, this side of the board. I think that's fine. It's still like the movement values oftentimes allow you to fuck up some things and be fine with that. You just don't. You can never just fucking stat check your opponent with such army, right? That's kind of obvious. And of course, you can fuck up, and absolutely you can get tabled by some of the things. But you need to be smart in this sense. But I think the precise measurement of some of the individual units, especially, is quite fine. And like, allows you some mistakes because how
Yeah.
fast they are compared to the overall the rest of the game.
And you still have, like, Phantasm can still bail you out of little mistakes.
Oh,
Fire
they
Fade.
did so many times. I am God's gift to Eldar because fucking I think I averaged like 4.5 inches with that stratagem.
Yeah.
But yeah,
They can do.
overall it's still it's legitimately not that fucking difficult.
No.
Orcs, I think we skip orcs. Same thing. I'm gonna double check if that couldn't be the codex. What the fuck am I talking about? It of course it wasn't. World Eaters scoring a 91 and 45.
Yeah.
Let's see if anything interesting is cooking in here. Pom 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 pom. I think that's gonna be Alex, right? Yeah, boy. Here he is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like 2 losses and then like 4
Yep.
massive wins.
This is, by the way, I've seen this in our Discord, posted by Alex. Fucking pig world eaters. Just
Yeah.
legitimately, yeah, I sometimes fuck up and die, but holy shit have I done.
Yeah.
If my opponent does, though, holy.
Yeah. They usually get an early lunch as well. Those games are quick. Those 20s are quick.
So amazing performance by Alex. Is this the vanilla special? Nah, it's not. It's a 10-man corn berserker. No gentleman with the glaive.
Yeah.
No
Which
glaive
is
in
more of a
here.
choice.
Instead, Karn with the units of 10 Zergs, 1 Rhino, 2 8 bound, 2 times 3 exalted, 1 6 exalted, 1 spawn.
Yeah. Yeah.
More 8 bound. More 8 bound, more better.
Yeah, so this is kind of this is one of your potential answers to Necrons, Canoptic Court. And again, it just has that ability it can just roll over some armies.
Amen.
Yeah. It's a point and click and charge list.
Kind of.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, I think there's more to that, but I mean...
Of course. Oh, yeah. Of course.
I mean, if you want to talk about world eaters, you are welcome to join our Discord. When Anthony is raving about them all the time, and you can ask him all sorts of questions about them, or also listen to the main show where he's talking about some of his games constantly and like his tournament experiences with them. Nothing changed much for them either with the points. There were some changes with like Zergs and stuff and Jackals, but I think even now Elton is saying he's probably gonna run the same list, but it's now 955 or something.
Sure. Yeah.
Which is a statement. But
yeah.
Sure. Next up, single Votan did a bit of link. I will skip the lone CSM that didn't do very well. Especially that the Codex is the New Horizon. And let's look at the fucking Admech, which I believe is a cohort run by none other than Alexander Englizus?
Sure.
Or Danny DeVito in BCP. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's an Alexander Englezos. Very sorry if I mispronounced any surnames or names in this episode. You fucking Aussies and your names, and like your Greek names in Aussies.
Yeah.
In Aussie land. So yeah, counter cohort, 3 marshals, no fucking clue what the enhancement do.
Oh yeah, I can tell you.
Nobody could tell you on this planet Earth. So we've got 1 Rangers, Vanguards, 2 Den Riders, single Ballistari, Iron Striders, cool. That's some Sky Stalkers and Sterilizers because they are fucking amazing. And those units are actually straight up just bonkers.
Yeah.
I would like to point that out. Sterilizers and Sky Stalkers are one of the most insane units in 40k. It's the gargoyle kind of principle. Geiger is one of the most broken units in 40k. Same
Best
here.
outline in the game, I'd argue.
Yeah. Like, for 13 points each, the Sterilizer are just not fair, in my opinion. Raiders, Infiltrators, and the Curia.
Yeah.
Who got an F because of that list.
It is the longest list in 40k.
Amen.
Yeah. It is as hoardy as MSU as it comes. I think Admech, if you have the correct player, So Admech are a weird one. I think if you know everything that they can do, it is a closer game. A lot of Admech players, I know somebody who's a very, very good Admech player, usually goes 4-1, 5-0 at events. He's like, I get into most games, I'm probably going to score 95 to 100. And
the enhancements are apparently redeploy, infiltrate, and something else.
That's all you need.
Legitimately, the best fucking thing you can say about the Admech enhancement list is like, it does something, you know?
It does something. Yeah. So again, it's one of those, there's a little bit of that, I don't want to say gotcha, but it is, if you don't know what everything does, they have a damage output issue, but they also have a deceptive amount of damage depending on what you're shooting.
Yes. I think, as with everything in 40k, it doesn't need to be a gotcha. If you're playing something for the first time, or close to the first time, or especially first time against a very experienced opponent, and you have no fucking clue what's going on,
which this army does in abundance. Yeah,
exactly. You are going to have a very rough time. Yeah, I have seen that also happen in the tournament I went to, where Golonka, one of our prospects, scored 100 points out of 100 with Admech, on very much the same principle of him being very good and people having no fucking idea what's going on.
Yes, yeah. Which was quite funny. Josh at Manchester DT, obviously Josh playing so many games, knows all the books backwards nowadays. The Admech player went 5-0, made the final cut of like 300 people or something. Gets into his game with Josh, obviously Josh using Canoptic Court, and he's like, do you need me to go through anything in this list? And Josh was like, no, I know what everything does. And I think the guy was like,
fuck.
No. Which, anyway, it didn't matter.
Very
anyway,
unfortunate.
It was hammer and anvil, and Josh went first and basically went, I've got the table. You can't kill me. I'm going to carry on charging you. It was rough anyway. But yeah, it was more of a case of Josh was like, yeah, I know what everything does. So
shit.
It was like, damn. Yeah. I just thought it was quite funny.
Anyway, I'm still every time I see Admech do well, I am a little bit impressed. So good luck. Good job, Alex.
I think some top teams will take Admech this year to WTC.
Very much possible.
Yeah. Maybe not podiums, but definitely top 10 teams. If you have
if you've got a correct player on the correct list, I think it can fuck you up in a big way.
Yes, yeah. For sure.
And the last list I want to talk about is the top scorer of the event. The person who went 114 points, beating every other Space Marine player and putting all those fucking BT Ironstorm bullshits to shame.
And making Naz cry in his sleep.
Amen.
Yeah.
With the record of fucking 5 20s and a 14. Again, last time, I'm very sorry for any mispronunciations here. It's E-word Sarl.
I can't even correct you because I'm dyslexic as fuck. Yeah.
Sir. It's the Space Wolves.
Yes, it is.
It's the Wolf Jail.
Yeah,
it's Bread and Butter Wolf Jail.
Yeah, it's Puppy Prison.
It's Paw Patrol.
Yeah.
It's amazingly fucking well.
It is such a good army. There is kind of two things that sometimes get in its way. A little bit of, three things kind of. usually likes to go first.
True.
It finds moving around terrain annoying because it's mounted occasionally,
True.
which is kind of why like first turn is nice. And the other problem is, for those that don't know, for the WTC, you're only allowed one Marine army. So it starts
the biggest
fighting.
problem.
Yes. It's fighting for the place of, say, a first put forward Black Templars Ironstorm list, or like a Blood Angels list, which conventionally is more commonly. I don't know how you describe the Blood Angels.
It's also Blood Angels are very fucking straightforward melee army in some transports that basically have infinite damage almost.
Yes.
Very world eaters, like pass every stat check army, right? Not incredibly fast, but also definitely not having the same problems with, I don't know, high with 2-up saves with AOC and stuff like that as like the wolves do. So very much straightforward punch people in the face army, which is very stable, extremely good right now. This fucking goes. This just goes.
It puts you in a fucking corner. Good luck getting out of it.
You are not getting out of the jail. You will not pay the wolf bail. You will get fucking stuck in the corner and get a score at 0.
You got Father Christmas on his sleigh as well.
Yeah, this Father Christmas on this sleigh. It has Harald Deathwolf that gives.
Yeah. Can't remember which one he does again.
Do you know what he does?
Him, no. Which one's he again?
He, from memory, he gives his unit the teeth and claws of the wolves gain devastating wounds.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's all right.
Just the teeth and the claws, though.
Oh yeah, if it was the whole unit, it'd be nuts. I guess it's big.
Yeah. The Santa Claus, then the battle leaders, of course.
Yeah, all the characters. Jump back.
2 assault marines, which went down, also very good. 2 infiltrator scores to fuck those crypts up, because if I'm in your face, you're not jumping on the other side of the board to get away from me. I like this choice very much. If you're anything like Grey Knights, Crypt, oh my god, you're not fucking teleporting 3 inches from me at the back.
Yeah, this back third of the board is not for you.
Yeah, exactly.
More screening.
Exactly, scouts, so infiltration with screening and like having the opportunity to out-infiltrate your opponent, to not allow them to room to breathe, and just the cav and 2 squads of wolf.
So
no shooting, no other.
It went 10-10 rather than 10-5-5.
Yes.
Yeah. Fair.
No shooting, fucking send it.
So the no shooting thing's an interesting choice sometimes, because I guess it depends a little bit on the terrain, but the couple of wolf lists that I've seen do maybe a little bit better generally are the ones that have a little bit of shooting just to keep you like a little bit honest. But then again, this is just full send.
Yep. So, I love it.
I guess that's singles over teams potentially. Yeah. It's such a cool army. It just had this thing of it
So Anthony keeps fucking saying that he will never lose the Wolf J, and I will clip that from yesterday's show even. I will clip that, and if it happens, because it will happen one day, by the way, I will fucking relentlessly post this everywhere, every time anything happens. And if for a quarter of a second, if Space Wolves are mentioned, I will post that clip. It's going to happen, by the way. 100%. It will happen to everybody. It happened to me already, like, at least twice. Because if those motherfuckers start to roll the 4-up infants, it's a pain train territory.
Yeah, it's a long day.
Exactly.
And then just
like, oh my god, I fucking got out. It's turn 4. Let's go. I'm surely going to score a lot of points now.
Yeah, and then the defensive strat that you can do twice just makes them so much of a pain. And obviously they move after you shoot them, and it's a nightmare. It's like, a whole thing. They just got closer to me.
I love it. I love it that this proved to score better than the Ironstorm and the Blood Angels. Fucking wonderful.
I'll be interested to see how many people take this WTC.
Mm. There's a lot of there's
Yeah.
Blood Angels and the fucking Ironstorm still running around, and
It's
even
hard.
Dark
not to
Angels
put that.
Ironstorm. It's a
That's also a
difficult
thing.
thing.
Yeah.
All right, that's basically the rundown. To recap the team placings, just for last time to give the glory where it's due. Team Vic, which I believe is Team Victoria, because I am bad at Aussie states, taking the win, the W, the glory, comprised of a lot of Team Australia members. And Adam Camilleri, who was supposed to be here, by the way. I'm gonna bother him so much that he skipped that one. He's probably still fucking fast asleep in his bed at like
It's
6
fair
a.m.
Like
That is very fair. That is true.
But again, it does go to show now that because the game is a lot more drawy, you are winning events with the chances. I think this year of say a team for winning the WTC with 7-0 actually is probably quite difficult. It would be quite an achievement. I think
it still hasn't happened technically.
No, technically no. So yeah, you see these people. They won the event with 5 wins, 2 draws, and actually one of them was very close to a loss.
That is true. There's only one above 100 score over here. Compared that to the WTC, where, for example, we have not scored below a 100 except with the US, where it was almost a dead draw. So these are so much closer than anything I've seen in a while, right? You've got an 87, 88, and 90. They are, except for one of these scores, these are extremely close wins.
Yeah, it's like 2 skin in the teeth. For those who don't know, you need 86 out of a round to win.
Yep.
So an 87 is you just got it. An 87,
literally on the edge.
Yeah.
Correct. Second place goes to WA, which is, I believe, Western Australia.
Sure.
Then we've got SA, which is Southern Australia.
Sure. Let's go with that.
I think I think I'm correct over here. By the way, next time, would you guys just, would it be such a difference if you just put a whole name of the fucking state in, or the New Zealand stuff? Please, I beg.
So it'd be to Team New Zealand North, Team New South Wales, Team New Zealand South, Team ACT, Team Tasmania, Team Mercs, Team Northern Territories, probably. ACT.
Northern Territories, that's fine, yeah.
Sure.
No Queensland, by the way. Very interesting.
Fair. Oh, is there only 10 teams for those 12?
Yes. Yep.
Oh, okay.
10 teams as a whole. No Queensland this year. Very interesting.
Fair enough.
All right. Again, congratulations, everybody. That was a very interesting peek into the fucking Aussie Down Under meta, which is always just fucking. I was watching some of these games. I was watching live at home, from the comfort of my own home, and because the event was streamed, by the way. And I was fucking. What is going on? What is Warhammer? Am I Warhammer? What the fuck?
But over recent years, they have put in phenomenal performances at the WTC, so it...
Man, anybody should fucking be aware that Australian meta may be weird as fuck, but they sure are presenting some fucking, bringing some heat to the WTC each year. So I'm looking at that and I'm like, I have no fucking clue whatsoever anymore. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they are the correct ones, right?
Sure.
All right. Let's go on to the show questions. Actually, let's do the plugs first before we go into the show questions. Smart. Thank you for watching this episode of Edge to the Matrix. Be sure, everybody, to check out the other shows on the network, including the main show that happens every Tuesday. Days. It's Tuesday. Every Tuesday with our hosts Ines and Anthony and Curie and Nathan and whoever the fuck joins the call. Be sure to check out Take All Commerce with the boys from the West Pacific territory of the US. I'm good at this. Uh, be sure to check out the Champions of 40K Roundball of Steve Joel, which has also put out an episode with Anthony recently. I've listened to that. It is amazing. I always love those shows, so I highly recommend that. Make sure to check out all of our patrons, reddragon.ca, as well as Wayland Yutani. We've got a merch store now right now, which is running. I'm super excited to fucking finally order something from there. It's gonna be great. Me and Typhus are going to fucking swag out in the tournaments, upcoming Polish tournaments. So do check that out. What else is there? By the way, it is always accused of being doing the scuffed plugs. I am the scuffiest plugs. I just want to take that away. Yeah, make sure to if you enjoy what we are doing and would like to join our community Discord, which is amazing. It's got a lot of cool people on it. It is a wonderful community that talks a lot about basically every army in the game, the current events, and whatsoever. Check out our Patreon and join us there. I think I'm good enough.
Nice.
Good enough for us. The most scout stroke on the network. That's our motto. And now,
Yes.
finally, onto the questions. I will put them in the YouTube chat to be able to show them on screen. Starting with Doug asking, with the ITT Birmingham at the end of the month, what 5-man comp would you take and what would you take to beat it? Very difficult question. Because if you have the 5-man team comp, you probably think it's unbeatable, at least close to that, right?
Yes, yeah. And it's whether you taking a 5 to beat what is the most common 5 means you can beat everyone else's 5, if that makes sense. So
that is true.
There's going to be familiar faces, Necrons, Guard, probably now New Orcs, either Bully Boys or Green Tide. Both are, let's be honest, kind of busted. You've got Eldar all the way up there, GK are all the way up there. There's a lot of armies that are able to make a 5 now. Some maybe struggle a little bit more than others, like the Nids, like the Custodes. World Eaters, if you have the right player, can do well in 5s, but they kind of need a babysitting and pairings somewhat. Especially because ITT, for those that don't know, is on UKGT terrain, which is it's got some good staging points, but it also has very good fire lanes. And it this time round has a light table, and then, let's put it in quotation marks, a heavy table, which has 2 terrain pieces that have moved 3 millimeters, but it allows you to score from a hidden place on the center objective, which is big for certain armies. So, yeah, one thing that's quite interesting for maybe RITT is, whereas Thousand Suns are a top teams list on WTC terrain or even GW terrain packs, it becomes a little bit more difficult at UKGT. The terrain is quite difficult for hiding Magnus. The staging points are not fantastic. You don't get as great ways of shooting indirectly. So Thousand Suns become a little bit more of a question mark. They still might be able to dominate, but I just don't see it as much. So we'll see. But again, any 5 you take, there's actually quite a lot of options you can take these days.
That is very true. I assume the new orcs are in, right? Because it's the end of the month. Yeah.
So yes, end of the month, and list submission is like the 10th of this month or something.
Oh, so are New Tau in?
Yes.
Okay, so everything is in. Yeah. So basically, it's a very unsolved meta, is what you're saying, because 3 new codexes are essentially in contention.
Yeah, Tau could be there. There's great fire lanes. The points have maybe hurt them more than maybe some people thought they were going to. The points changes that came out recently have maybe dampened some Tau hearts, which I'm okay with, because if you play a shooting army only, then that's only your fault. I hate
Amen.
Tau. Yeah.
Amen. Actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can just say basically the same thing, but I also think Necrons are not necessary at all in 5 minutes. I think that's not a thing. I think you would like to find a team where everything has a very strict set of armies it can be good against. After Alpine, especially with the meta being so droish, I came to the conclusions like armies, maybe like Death Guard, for example, that I run weren't so useful. I mean, I did fucking droish almost to the end of the tournament, but it wasn't very useful in pairings.
Yeah.
And I think right now with 5 months specifically, not 8 months, but 5 months, you kind of need a role for each of your armies. I think skews are valuable right now.
Yeah. Oh, and you probably want some anti-tank armies.
Oh, you definitely want some anti-tank
in
armies.
In five, because
you 100% need those. Yeah. You will encounter things like Iron Storm. You will encounter things like Grey Knights. You need to have answers for such skews.
Sure.
So definitely a tip on that. How do you think, guys, think the WTC map and mission pack could be improved? It is actually an ongoing conversation amongst captains for some improvements, which, as one of the people who is piloting or like leading that conversation is Ines, actually, because he always does this motherfucking shit where he has time to do things and just fucking second every other captain like I do most of the time. I'm just like +1, yeah, sure, that's fine, that's cool. So yeah, the general consensus is right now the maps do feel a little bit samey across the board. There is not especially when we say about 8-man team WTC proper format, right? I'm not talking using WTC maps in like singles events. But in the 8-man team format, I think maps do feel a little bit samey. They were designed back when towering was a thing. So sometimes the difference between a heavy and light table is just literally just if it is a small or a big ruin in a particular spot. So right now it like almost doesn't make a difference if you pick a light or heavy board, which seems a little meh.
Yeah, the lights are not light enough and the heavies are not heavy enough. It's kind of a weird argument. Yes. And then one of the medium boards actually is heavier than the heavier board.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, I can 100% tell you that like the heavy and light on WTC scale, or like what they are marked as, is completely like wrong in essence, because all it designates is how many big ruins and how many small ruins are on the table, not if the table is like actually better for shooting or worse for shooting right now.
Yes, it still has 8 mats on it, which
10
inherently it still has the 10 maps, like the terrain, what the terrain sits on, which predominantly is what cuts down fire lanes way more than the actual buildings do.
Mm-hmm. That is true. So like there is differences. I would like to see some changes. I think some of the propositions, like removing some of the, like moving slight corrections to some of the ruins, which wouldn't be big, is what something like Ines is proposing, is to make some of the side objectives more open, because many, even on light boards, some of them can be held through a wall or like from the safety of a ruin, at least to some extent. So the discussion is ongoing. Myself, I would like I can see it being that a problem that the tables across are so samey. It's a huge and usually a very important part of the team tournament experience and like prep or everything to be prepared for lighter boards, heavier boards, etc. I do like how they play, though.
it's a little bit of the argument of they are arguably stale because they are going to be the same.
That is
teams you had last
definitely
year,
the case. Yeah.
which, so if you played on them all year, you know exactly where you can go with certain things, and the game becomes a little bit more mechanical, let's say. But then again, do you want to disrupt prep by re-overhauling the entire map things?
I don't
It's late.
believe right now, especially that it's May, we are going to see huge shakeups happening. If so, there's going to be some small adjustments, which probably will go through, and I'm fine with. I definitely am scared a little bit of, like, I just hate with all of my heart when there's some very light boards and you can just fucking win the first roll off for the table choice and plunk down a very difficult to answer gun line.
Yeah, like
Honestly.
say for example,
I hate that with a passion.
2019 when England won it, you literally had, I think we had an 9 broadside list with 1,000 drones that just got to go first table choice, and you were playing on what we'd call a pool table or snooker table where there was nothing, you couldn't hide anything.
Yeah,
and it was
back then it was fucking rough.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely not going this direction. I think there's going to be small adjustments. Overall, I still would like to say that the overall WTC pack, the fact that it was developed in is a very small amount of time, to be honest, after the edition has changed, and how well it performed all over this edition, it's quite an achievement, because I still think it's the best. This terrain pack still plays the best out of all of them that I've seen.
Sure. I agree.
All right. On to the next one. We've got some questions to Adam Camilleri himself, but he's a no-show, so I will ping him directly when he gets around to it to answer y'all guys' questions as his punishment. ANZTC used a pod of 4 and a pod of 6 structure that left some teams feeling disadvantaged. How would Pumba and Typhus organize a 10-man team event with a limit of 2 days to get the first event structure? So, it's a difficult one. There is definitely, I see where I think the whole argument is that after, I want to say 3 rounds. Double check that. I can't because fucking pairings are not open and shit. But yeah, I believe the thing was that the top 4 teams after some of the runs played basically in a pod together. So after 3 rounds, it was divided into 4 and 6. I honestly don't hate that. I don't see a point of why wouldn't you just go pure Swiss?
With 10, yeah, you can go pure Swiss.
Like, it doesn't hurt you at all, I believe, right? The worst that can happen is you run out of teams to play with each other, because if it's 10 teams and 6 rounds.
Yeah.
That is extremely excessive amounts of games to find a true winner. All you need is like 4.
Yeah. This could have been a 5-game event.
So yeah, honestly, with 10 teams, I don't see why you wouldn't just go Swiss event. Just random pairings at the start, Swiss it for 5 rounds. The most basic thing you can do, right?
Yeah.
It's how WTC used to be before there were so many countries, and like the problem with that structure, I believe, is that you sometimes come across a finals in like the second, third round.
Yeah,
is the biggest drawback. Yeah. So from the show standpoint, the pod system makes the most sense, I believe, if you would like to make it a show. For a competitive standpoint, I see no problems with it being just Swiss.
Yeah. Like you might get situations where second plays third in the last round and first actually plays like sixth, but you've switched. They've usually played first. They've usually played second or third at that point anyway,
Exactly.
so it's fine. Yeah.
I
So
don't see a
yeah.
reason for it to go 6 rounds. I mean, the only reason I can see, from my perspective and of like going to a lot of European / Polish events, would be to make it more of a show, especially right. If you divide it, you have the top pod that plays each other on the second day. So I think that's fair. And the last question from our Discord, I believe. Double check if anything has popped up since there. Nope. From Willow. Occurred to me while watching, it is possible that the field just didn't have well-developed matrices. Really weird results around makes me wonder if the pairings were more scattershot than expected. Very possible.
Yeah.
It's very hard to tell.
Yeah, it's not unless we've really broke down every single pairing and maybe why have they put that into this? Why has that been put forward without doing all of that information? It's hard to say what was actually done. Exactly. And then again, Matrix
is as good as of yours than is of ours. It's very hard to make such assessment, and just straight up saying that some of the matrices were not developed just based on the results is not necessarily always true, right? No. Shit happens in games and people get sacrificed and pairing strategies come into play, so it's very complex. Without seeing each and every single like team matrix, for example, extremely hard to make that statement. And the last question, this time from our chat, because I'm scanning it right now, from none other than Anthony Vanilla. How insane do orcs need, have to be before Pauline fights a pilot? Very. But we have decided that it is time. So yeah. Typhus has already done his green mask, his cute boots, and he will be our orc pilot, I'm sure. He does not know that. I am now announcing it publicly, but he is the man that will bear the mantle of our orc player. In fact, we will probably find someone. Like, there's a lot of testing going on.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe I should do this. Maybe Typhus should be our pilot. Now that I think about it, it doesn't sound like a bad idea. Damn. Thanks, Anthony.
He's probably quick enough to play them, so that's good.
You solved one of my issues. All right. On this beautiful shitposting question, we will end our show going only 1 hour and 40 minutes, which is lowballing it for us. We know. Yeah. We are sorry. All right. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. Thank you, Nathan, for hanging out. Thank you, everybody, for being with us. We will see you in the next one. For now, I believe schedule is not something we can actually work with. No. So one of those Wednesdays, look forward to another episode of Enter the Matrix.
Yeah, we'll have some team announcements probably coming soon of teams being picked. We can go through those kind of things.
Yep, definitely. And then, if we have a topic, if we would like to do a show, we will find the topic, because there's a lot of shit's going on in the ANZTC space, especially with Team Poland being selected, Team England being selected, Team France being selected, I believe. So we can actually maybe catch some of the guys and talk with some of the WTC captains, for example, about their team selection process and how the final squads have come up. All right. And until then, we will see you guys. Bye-bye.